Good morning, everybody. This is Mike Brennan here at the National Hurricane Center. It's just after 11:30 a.m. on Tuesday with an update on Hurricane Idalia. We have a very dangerous situation unfolding in the next 24 hours for the Florida Big Bend region, as we're going to see the core of a major hurricane expected to make landfall in that area early Wednesday morning. You can see Idalia getting better organized here on satellite imagery. It's currently centered about 275 miles south-southwest of Tampa. Maximum sustained winds are up to about 85 miles per hour. You can see the thunderstorm activity here in these dark orange and red shades wrapping around the center. We can actually also see, if you look on the radar data from Key West and Tampa, you can actually see the eye here. This is up at about 25 to 30,000 feet above ground level, but you are able to see the eye forming here. And we've had NOAA hurricane hunters flying into the storm this morning, providing us some really valuable data. Shows the pressure is falling, the winds are also increasing, so we're beginning to see the onset of what we expect to be rapid intensification here up to when Idalia makes landfall. Looking at the radar, you can see some rain bands already moving into portions of the lower Keys. We've seen wind gusts of tropical storm force in places in the lower Keys this morning. You also see some pretty significant rain bands just starting to move into places like Fort Myers and lurking just off the coast of southwest Florida. All that weather is going to be advancing northward during the next 12 to 24 hours up the west coast of Florida. Going to go back to the storm surge here. We have an update to the storm surge inundation numbers that we're forecasting, with Idalia expected to make landfall generally somewhere in this Big Bend region tomorrow morning. We're now expecting catastrophic impacts from storm surge with 10 to 15 feet of inundation above ground level from Osceola River down to Yankeetown. That's Citrus, Levy, Dixie, and Taylor counties. And in addition to the 10 to 15 feet of inundation, we're going to have destructive wave action on top of that can actually destroy homes and buildings and really make this a place where it's going to be difficult to survive if you stay in a storm surge evacuation zone where you've been asked to leave here. So again, just for reference, I'm 6 feet tall. We're talking about water that's more than twice as tall as I am, or 2.5 times, up to 15 feet. And even not just in this area, but well to the right of the center, we're expecting life-threatening storm surge inundation across portions of the Florida West Coast, 7 to 11 feet from south of Yankeetown to Chassahowitzka, 6 to 9 feet down to Anclote River, 4 to 7 feet in the Tampa Bay region, 3 to 5 feet from middle of Longboat Key down to Inglewood, and also up here on the west side of the Big Bend, Appalachia Bay region, 6 to 9 feet from Osceola River to Ocklawahnee River. So again, a wide swath of life-threatening inundation here, but especially concerned about the Big Bend here in that 10 to 15 foot area. If you've been asked to evacuate, please do so. You still have time today to get out and get to a safe place. You don't have to drive hundreds of miles. You just have to drive tens of miles to get to a safe place where you can ride out the storm outside that storm surge evacuation zone. Now, in addition to the significant storm surge threat, we're going to be looking at the core of a major hurricane moving onshore somewhere in the Big Bend region of Florida or early Wednesday morning. This is a look at the current wind field associated with Idalia. This is the tropical storm force wind field in orange, and the wind watches and warnings along the coast. We have that hurricane warning in effect for the Tampa Bay region up through the Big Bend over to Indian Pass. That's where we're most concerned about the threat for hurricane force winds, and we're especially concerned where the core of Idalia makes landfall in that Big Bend region overnight. In the eye wall of that major hurricane, you're going to see the potential for life-threatening destructive winds, widespread damage, tree damage, structural damage, power lines down, and then we're also expecting a significant wind threat to extend inland into portions of North Florida and even southern Georgia here, where we have hurricane warnings in effect everywhere you see in red. This is places like Valdosta, Tallahassee, Gainesville. We could see, again, widespread power outages, so you're going to want to be prepared for multiple days potentially without power here. You're going to want to be in a safe place, certainly by this evening. If we look at the timing of arrival of the tropical storm force winds, they're going to be advancing up the Florida West Coast, reaching the Tampa Bay area this evening, the Big Bend region in the overnight hours early Wednesday morning, and then spreading into North Florida Wednesday morning, and then up along the southeast coast with the hurricane force winds moving inland near the core of the system. Now, beyond that, we are also looking at the potential for impacts from wind on the East Coast. We have a tropical storm warning in effect from Sebastian Inlet northward across the northeast Florida coast up to Jacksonville, including the Georgia coast, Savannah, Charleston, all the way up to South Santee River, with the likelihood of seeing tropical storm force winds in this area as we move from Tuesday night into Wednesday. Now we have tropical storm watches in effect for places like Myrtle Beach, Wilmington, up to Surf City, North Carolina. Those will likely be extended up a little farther north later today. But again, widespread impacts resulting from Idalia over the next few days. Now let's touch on the rainfall threat. Everywhere you see in red here has a significant chance of seeing substantial flash flooding over the next couple of days. We're expecting 4 to 8 inch rainfall totals widespread across this region from east of Tallahassee to Jacksonville, Savannah, Charleston, Wilmington, with the potential for isolated totals as high as 12 inches here in the Big Bend region where the center of Idalia comes on shore. So you can think in addition to the storm surge threat down here, you're going to have potentially a foot of rainfall mixing in with that. So again, a reminder that water is the hazard that kills almost 90% of people in tropical storms and hurricanes in this country. The combination of storm surge and freshwater flooding is an especially dangerous one. And you certainly want to know if you live in a flood-prone area, even inland, away from the coast, know where you're going to go and how you're going to get to safety if flooding does begin in your area. So I want to touch on one last thing before we wrap things up. Again, the dire nature of the situation with the storm surge threat along the Florida Big Bend coastline. But again, I want to emphasize post-storm safety. There are likely going to be some devastated areas here, not only from storm surge, but from wind over portions of North Florida, even into southern Georgia, where there could be widespread power outages. There may not be water, emergency services, other amenities that you're used to having. So you're going to want to be prepared to survive several days on your own without any support from anybody else. And you're going to need several days worth of food, medicine, water, other emergency supplies you need. Make sure you have batteries, make sure your devices are charged up, and make sure you have an emergency plan to know how to communicate with your family if you're cut off from them. We lose almost as many people to post-storm fatalities in this country, especially from major hurricanes, as we do from the direct forces of the storm itself. This includes things like carbon monoxide poisoning from improper generator use, cleanup accidents, falls, heart attacks, heat-related illnesses, and other medical access issues. So it's another reason why if you're in one of these evacuation zones that you've been asked to leave, it's another reason to leave, because you're not going to want to stay in an area where you could be in a compromised situation after the storm and nobody's there to help you. So again, please follow any evacuation orders you've been given. Today is your last day to get out and get out of harm's way, especially along the Florida West Coast. Stay tuned for more updates from the National Hurricane Center. I'm Mike Brennan.